Support for this podcast comes from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative, connecting communities with the resources, infrastructure, and networks to ensure a vibrant local free press.
From KVPR in Fresno, this is Central Valley Daily. It's Tuesday, July 29th. I'm Elizabeth Arakelian. It is said that the United States is the land of immigrants, even if getting here and setting roots is difficult.
There's hope that when a group of people come through from something that was very devastating, give it some time and good things happen.
We go inside a museum honoring the history of Armenians and their early days in Fresno. That conversation coming up right after these headlines. Hanford Republican Congressman David Valadao is pushing back on efforts by Governor Gavin Newsom to change congressional maps. This comes as the Republican Texas legislature looks at redrawing congressional maps there ahead of next year's midterms, which could benefit them. Newsom met with Texas Democrats last week about potential redistricting efforts in California to benefit their party. Some experts say redistricting could impact Valley Republican seats. Congressman Valadao called the attempt a, quote, blatant power grab. California delegates the task of drawing congressional maps to an independent commission. A U.S. District Court judge has blocked the defunding of Planned Parenthood. The ruling pauses cuts that were included in the Big Beautiful Bill. It stripped millions of dollars in Medicaid reimbursements from clinics that provide abortions. Andrew Adams is the spokesperson for the Planned Parenthood clinics in Northern California and Nevada.
The healthcare we provided to 80% of our patients who use Medicaid, we have not sought reimbursement for that care as of today.
At least 5 Planned Parenthood clinics in the state have already shut down, including the clinic in Madera. California is challenging the Trump administration's latest effort to collect personal data from over 5 million Californians who receive SNAP benefits. The Department of Agriculture set a July 30th deadline for states to turn over the last 5 years of personal data from recipients. That includes Social Security numbers and home addresses. This stems from Trump's executive order earlier this year to weed out waste, fraud, and abuse from the food assistance program. Attorney General Rob Bonta says it isn't about oversight or transparency.
This is about establishing widespread surveillance under the guise of fighting fraud. We can call it what it is, an illegal data grab designed to scare people away from public assistance programs.
Bonta called it unprecedented, saying the data shared was only intended to be used to verify eligibility and to administer benefits. The administration is threatening to withhold $1 billion from California if the state does not comply. 1 year after a viral video from a Merced County high school rally took the internet by storm, KVPR has now learned one detail missing at the time. As KVPR's Rachel Livenall reports, we learned who was under a mascot suit during the viral skit.
The video showed what Merced Union High School district officials called a, quote, lap dance. It involved then Buhat Colony High School principal Robert Nunez and the school mascot. Records obtained by KVPR reveal the man in the suit is the current athletic director, Aaron Abril. Nunez resigned shortly after the dance, but later returned as associate principal. Abril received a warning letter, but remains in his position. Ryan Atterbury, a parent of a student at the high school, says he wanted to see more penalties from the district over the public display.
They just really dropped the ball in the whole situation, and I feel like it was so public with the principal's face that the mascot kind of hid in the shadow.
School officials declined to comment disciplinary actions, but did tell KVPR the situation was handled, quote, in accordance with the law. For KVPR News, I'm Rachel Livenall.
Is the nation's favorite couple living here in the San Joaquin Valley. A Kern County couple is in the running for that title as part of a contest brought on by the entertainment magazine Variety. Jeff and Gracie Arends are currently leading the competition. They could win $20,000 and a feature in the magazine. The couple says they would put the money toward medical bills from Grace's multiple sclerosis and other illnesses. Voting for the top 5 couples ends on Thursday. Officials are trying to pin down who the owner is of several large decorative lanterns found on a Fresno underpass. The peculiar finding was made by a high-speed rail contractor last month. The lanterns were stored inside a room under an old Belmont underpass in downtown Fresno. TV news outlet KMPH reports the lanterns are each 4 feet tall and 2 feet wide with green and red paint.
Support for Central Valley Daily comes from Fresno Mazda, part of the Prieto Automotive family, leading the industry in the IIHS 2025 Top Safety Pick Awards, helping move Mazda closer to the goal of eliminating traffic fatalities. More information in the Mazda digital showroom available at myfresnomazda.com.
And now to our main story. On a recent afternoon, producer Jonathan Linden and I headed to the Armenian Museum of Fresno. It's just off Highway 41 on Shaw Avenue in an unassuming office building. While it's a museum, the building also houses offices used by the University of California. When Jonathan and I arrive, we meet Varoujan Der Simonian. He's the director of the Armenian Museum of Fresno.
How do you feel, to tour first or to do the interview first? How do you want to do it? What's your time?
Producer.
We could do the tour
Both of
first.
them?
Yes. Yeah.
When walking down the hallways, we notice different panels highlighting Armenian history, particularly showing how the community came to settle in Fresno.
So there are varieties of over 110 panels, so the visitors can easily read any panel they want to without being overwhelmed.
The panels include a lot of local history. I even spotted some of my own personal background. My ancestors were among the first wave of Armenian settlers in Fresno in the late 1800s. The Arakelians arrived before the turn of the century. Like many, my family took advantage of the Mediterranean climate here to farm. Thousands would soon join them when the Armenian genocide began a few decades later.
This section here talks about why the Armenians came to California. Of course, the major reason was a genocide.
The Armenian genocide is a big focus of the museum. Between 1915 and 1917, it's estimated that between 600,000 and 1.5 million Armenian people were killed by Turkish leaders of the Ottoman Empire. And while the genocide can bring up deep emotions for many Armenians, a new exhibition at the museum is also trying to find joy in their Armenian American history. After walking through most of the museum, Varoujan takes us to the latest exhibit. There we meet Robby Antoyan. Robby's the photographer behind the new photo exhibition titled Fresno Armenians 50 Years Ago.
The idea for me was only people that were 60 years old or more. That's why you don't see very many younger people in these photos.
He wanted to showcase the earlier generation of Armenian settlers in Fresno. 60-year-old grandparents in the mid-1970s would have been children during the Armenian genocide. Robby took the photos as a college student in the 1970s. He was home for the summer and brought his camera to capture a typical pastime for Armenians of that era: picnics after church. The photos show everyday Fresno Armenians sitting on a bench together, playing cards, eating, dancing. It showed real life. And at the time, Robby didn't envision the pictures ever being displayed anywhere. He instead took them as a homesick college student. While off studying architecture at Cal Poly San Luis Obispo, he came to realize why he felt so unsettled. There were hardly any Armenians around. Taking photos was a way to connect with his heritage.
I had no intentions of showing them like this at all. I had given Varoujan a copy of them when I got them digitized so that he could have it as a research. If somebody were to come in and would want to research Fresno Armenians at that time.
To learn more about these photos and their meaning for Robby, I sat down with him inside the museum on 2 vintage folding lawn chairs, just like the ones in the photos. Sitting together, surrounded by the faces of past Armenians in Fresno, Robby first tells me a little bit more about what he was trying to capture in these moments.
Just themselves, as they were, just like every day. You know, nothing special. A few of them were a photograph of them smiling at me, kind of thing, the camera. One woman tried to hit me with her purse because she thought I was going to use it for other purposes. I have no idea. She was really upset. But she was the only one. Everyone else, they just kind of, if they had a cup of drink or whatever it might be, they raised their hand, smiled. But for the most part, I want them to be candid, to see them as they were at that time.
Do you think the same sort of community among Armenians exists in Fresno today, 50 years later?
Maybe. The newer generation of people have a different outlook on life as they've gone through. We are, I'm including me in that, we're a bit more materialistic. We're looking for things to accumulate and buy, some people to show off. I didn't get that so much with that generation. They didn't have the opportunity to show much off. I mean, my mom was a tailor, and the clothes that I wore growing up, she made. And I think that's how a lot of the people were. The dresses that you see the women wearing, they probably made majority of them themselves just because that's what they could afford. And now it's a bit different in the context of how we've grown up, and I don't see that being the same. I don't mean them to be mean here now. That wasn't my point, but it's different.
If you were to recreate this exhibition in today's culture, go out with your camera, where do you think you'd start?
Picnics. There's still 2 picnics that I'm aware of, both Holy Trinity and St. Paul, for the blessing of the grapes in beginning of August. I would probably start there. I don't know downtown. It's been a long time since, we have also been accepted as a group of people more readily now. And so we've spread out everywhere. Whereas before, the downtown was where the immigrants first came, and not just the Armenians, it was the Germans and the Italians, the Chinese and Japanese were in Chinatown. So we had our own little groups, Italian town. But in the 70s, we started becoming more acceptable to people.
I did hear that Armenian men weren't accepted into the Lions Club, and that's why they created the Tigers.
Yes. Also, Sunnyside Golf Course didn't allow Armenians until 1973. And so some Armenians changed their name to get in.
Well, your exhibit is quite happy. I see music and dancing and games. So what do you hope, despite some of the more grave things we've discussed today, about, the Armenian history and settling here, what do you hope people take away from this exhibit?
I would hope that they just feel good about what they were and who they are, if they're descendants of these people, or even if they're not. There's hope that when a group of people come through from something that was very devastating, give it some time, patience, and good things happen.
That was my conversation with Robby Antoyan. His photography exhibit, Fresno Armenians 50 Years Ago, is now on display at the Armenian Museum of Fresno. The exhibition is open until August 27th. And that is today's show. Today's episode was produced by Jonathan Linden and KVPR with support from the Central Valley Journalism Collaborative. I'm Elizabeth Arakelian. You can find the latest local news anytime at kvpr.org.
These days, there's so much news, it can be hard to keep up with what it all means for you, your family, and your community. The Consider This podcast from NPR features our award-winning journalism. 6 days a week, we bring you a deep dive on a news story and provide the context and analysis that helps you make sense of the news. We get behind the headlines. We get to the truth. Listen to the Consider This podcast from NPR.